Well, the numbers after 90, the expected goals, 1.26 for Cavalry, 0.62 for Pacific. 27 shots in the match, 20 of them coming from the home side, but they only put 3 of them on target. That's 3 saves for Sean Melvin for his clean sheet. 10 of those 20 shots coming from inside the box. And the possession numbers, they started to level out towards the end of the match, but it's a slight advantage for Cavalry at the end. For Pacific, they remain undefeated, 2-1-0. No goals conceded through 270 minutes of CPL play now, and it's a gutsy performance for the group because they were feeling the effects of the flu bug. They were feeling the waves of pressure from Cavalry, and the result will keep Tommy Wheeldon Jr.'s side as one of the 3 clubs without a win in the CPL, despite the 2 draws. That's 2 points, that's 6th ahead of Halifax and Valor. For Pacific, they are level with Atletico Ottawa. They and the capital-based club 2 points off of Forge, the only club with 3 wins from 3 at the end of Matchweek number 3. So here on One Soccer, we look ahead to the Canadian Championship coming up in midweek. We're excited for it. We got a taste of it this week with TFC and Cavalry. They just could not get the goal today. Fraser Aird, who is winning our Gatorade Performance of the Match today, he joins the show now. Fraser, it seemed like everything was coming through your right side. A lot to like despite not getting that moment. How do you evaluate the 0-0 draw?
Yeah, obviously, first half I thought we played really well. We implemented the game plan to a T, to be honest. The only thing we were missing was a goal. We try to play the way that we want to play, especially at home. We have a good record here, and we try to play the right brand of football, but we came up a little bit short. Another clean sheet, 2 in a week. But yeah, disappointed we didn't get the win after the way we played.
I thought you were very good, especially down that right side. You found an awful lot of joy. You created a lot of chances. You were terrific today in your distribution. With so much possession throughout the game, so many opportunities. Obviously, you're a little bit disappointed, but what positives do you take out of this match?
As I said, it's another clean sheet at home. We got one in the Canada Cup at the weekend. It's something that as a team we can always build on. We take the positives. We didn't get beat. We take the points, but yeah, something we need to work on in the final third. And you know what it's like at the start of the season. It's always the hardest thing to do is score. So if we can keep keeping clean sheets and playing that way, I think the goals will come, especially with our front four and the attacking firepower we have in this team. I know goals will come, so we'll take the positives.
Well, Fraser, I imagine an ice bath and a nap are in order for you and your teammates. A busy week, as you mentioned. Great defensive performance. We'll let you go. Thanks for joining us, and congratulations on the Gatorade Performance of the Match.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Fraser Aird joining us live from Atco Field in a 0-0 draw. So the Foot Soldiers, they've seen really good play from Cavalry this week. 2 games, 1-0 to Vancouver, 0-0 to Pacific, and a heroic stop from Carducci at the end keeps it at a point apiece. For Jimmy Brennan, I'm Adam Jenkins. Thanks for joining us in the Canadian Premier League.
Would you like the extended warranty for $150?
Go ad-free for $29.99.
Only 3 easy payments of $49.99 if you act now.
We make thousands of financial decisions every day. Each one affects bigger decisions tomorrow. Stay on top of it all with the CIBC Smart Account.
These days at your local Legion, we're marching to the beat of a different drum. On a mission to support veterans, to have fun, and to welcome everyone to our ranks. You don't have to be a veteran to join the Legion. And as a member, you'll join thousands of others serving our veterans, our communities, and our country. Oh yeah, and our Member Perks program will save you thousands on shopping, dining, products, and services across the country. Join us at legion.ca.
We created Carlsberg 00 because even the best things can be better with alcohol-free beer. Clean one-handed backhand is better. Balancing stuff is better. Whatever this is better. We created Carlsberg. Skipping your own ad is better. Parking in space, better. So, can the best alcohol-free beer make good things better? Probably.
Degree, 72-hour non-stop protection. Antiperspirant with motion sense. Tested to the limit. Degree, keeps working when others stop.
Matchweek 3 in the Canadian Premier League. It's in the books. A 0-0 final, the first goalless match of the Canadian Premier League season, as Cavalry and Pacific each walk away with a point. And don't look now at the Canadian Premier League table. Is that Cavalry, the runaway winners from a season ago of the regular season, down in 6th? Wow. Welcome to Match Night here on One Soccer. Happy to have you along, the hottest soccer show in Canadian television. There is a lot of them out there, guys. This one, numero uno. Gareth Wheeler, Jordan Wilson, Christian Jack with you on tonight's program. We'll wrap up the week that was in the Canadian Premier League, the latest of the Canadian men's national team and their managerial search. The Canadian Championship is up and running, and of course, the best and worst of the week. But first, here are your results from Matchweek 3 in the Canadian Premier League. Look at that. York United smashes Vancouver 3-0 the final. Are we going to blame the ball for that one? Nope. No?
The only air that's coming out is you two and pumping the tires of Vancouver.
KJ Ball, don't lie. Atletico Ottawa ruin, or spoil, I should say. Ruin's a little bit harsh. Beat Halifax, 10-man Halifax Wanderers in their home opener. Forge keep on rolling, 3 games, 3 wins. A late Noah Jensen winner gives them the full 3 points. Harsh on Valor, I gotta say that. The game that you just watched on One Soccer, Cavalry and Pacific played to a 0-0 draw. Here are the up-to-date Canadian Premier League standings. Look at that, Forge on 9. Look at Cavalry. 3 games, just 2 points. Donuts for Halifax and Valor. An encouraging performance by York with some players back into the team. And Pacific just going about their business. It's been a really good start to the season. They have yet to concede a goal. Let's speak to the game that we just saw, Cavalry Pacific. The storyline when it comes to Cavalry, 20 shots in the game, just couldn't find the back of the net. In fact, that's just 3 goals scored in their first 4 games played in all competitions. It's very easy to say that when you take away a Golden Boot winner like Meyer Bevan from a season ago, that's going to have some sort of effect on the Cavalry attack. But what do you make of the start to the season for Cavalry? Is there reason for concern the way that they're going about their attacking football? Jordan Wilson.
I'm not concerned. I mean, last season, 2023, it was similar, 5 ties. And the start of the season, you're thinking about Cavalry, talking to Tommy Wilden Jr. It was, they were playing well, but they weren't getting the results they wanted, KJ. And you can see with today, the shots that they had, the way that they attacked, they're just missing that final product. And right now, you're looking at 3 games, 2 points, but still such a strong Cavalry side that feel like they have the confidence. I look at someone like Ali Musi, maybe you feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders when he's playing a little bit right now. But at some point, they're going to break the ice. At some point, they're going to get that goal. And I think things will start working for them.
Yeah, I agree with you. For me, look at, that's marginal. They almost scored there at the end. Fantastic call by the official, by the way, in a year that Canadian Premier League officials have been brilliant through 3 weeks. I want to say that. Real Moore had a chance to deny them at the end there. Look, I think Cavalry are fine, and it is their longest winless streak in the CPL since Jordan's aforementioned streak last year, where the first 5 games were tied. So, you know, ultimately, Fraser Ed talked about the hardest time to score is now because, you know, teams are coming in, they're getting used to it, they're sitting a bit deeper. They're still creating so many chances. And I think Tommy Wheeldon Jr., when he analyzes the first 4 games, I think his biggest concern will be how they gave up a 2 goals to Forge when they got that goal 1-0. That's still going to be his thing. We can't be giving away leads like that. So I think they're creating enough chances. I understand Maya Bevan got the award, but last year a lot of goals came from set pieces and from other areas. So I think they want to get Gutierrez a little bit more involved in the attack. And Willie Akio is a fine player, but right now it has to be said he's probably the most disappointing player in the CPL through 3 weeks.
I'll just say this, though. Like, the profile of Meyer Bevan is something that they don't have in their team right now. Like Shaw, Warshevsky, these players are just different styles of attacking players. They don't have that player that will get in behind the back. Like, Meyer Bevan's really a fox in the box. I feel like Warshevsky and Shaw are a little bit better from deeper lying positions, KJ.
Back to goal.
Yeah, so it's going to take maybe some time to get used to it. As far as Cavalry is concerned, I mean, a little bit of a tricky one. Let's be honest. This game, they played midweek, 10 men for half an hour against Vancouver in the Canadian Championship. So are you happy with the point? Like, they still, over the last 2 seasons in Canadian Premier League play, have only lost 1 at home.
Yeah, their home form is fine. I think, for me, would I be happy with it? No, I don't think you could ever be happy if you don't win at home with your Cavalry. But that's Pacific, who is a perennial playoff team, who came in and before the ball kicked, if someone said, would you take 0-0, lads? They'd be like, let's get back on the plane. Do you know what I mean? So I think that says a lot of the respect that these teams have got. You know what it's like when you go in there. You know, it's really difficult to get a point from them. And I think Tommy Wheeldon Jr. has got to understand that when you win the league by 13 points, teams are just going to come in and play you differently.
Yeah, that's a massive respect that you have to have when you play Cavalry because they annihilated teams last year. If you finish 13 points ahead, that's never been seen before. And they felt untouched, right? And that's why it was such a shock going into the Canadian Premier League finals and the playoffs with Forge. I favored Cavalry just in terms of like the team that they were. It's only because of bias or whatever and how Forge usually win that last game. But in terms of on paper, this team's dangerous, Wheels.
Let's chat Pacific, pragmatic Pacific as of late under James Merriman. They become just the 2nd team in Canadian Premier League history to start the season with 3 clean sheets. The only other side that's done it, and maybe put an asterisk on it, it was Valor inside the bubble in 2020. Jordan's tried to banish the memory of the bubble.
Which was in Winnipeg.
Which was in Winnipeg, a completely different context. So well done. 2 different goalkeepers in the process as well. Pacific's is a club, Jordan, that you normally associate their football, like flash and class and all sorts of attacking football, but they're getting things done in a different way here at the start of the season.
And boy, oh boy, Wheels, if they can find that balance throughout the season, this could maybe be a year for Pacific to upset some people, right? I feel like, for me specifically, looking at Pacific, Amir Didic leaving, I thought, if you're looking at the 6 seasons in the Canadian Premier League, he's one of the top center backs for me. But I think now even TMG and having Endom as well, I think it might even be a better pair. Granted, this is 3 games in, but you're seeing chemistry within the Pacific side. I think Toussaint today, not just because he was my roommate in the bubble where we survived.
He was fantastic.
I thought he was all over the pitch, but there's balance within this team, KJ. You have a Toussaint sitting, but you could put a Yates, Lamoth, you have Young as well. Like, this team is really pushing forward. And you look at that last clip, Wheels, for Moore. If he maybe goes around Carducci or chips him, they're 1-0 up, and that was a hard-fought match, right? They grinded. So if they can get a bit of both with the pragmatic defensively, but just get a little spark going forward, Pacific will be there.
Yeah, they have to find what is their tactical identity, right? And I think it comes from working on defensive shape. And then they've got enough difference makers. You just mentioned a few of them, Moore, Saloof, Hurd, who can get you goals out of nothing, right? So I think for me, they've worked hard a lot on defensive shape. You can see it again, how much they brought into it today with Yates and everything. They were disappointed with the way that their season went in the second half. They leaked far too many goals, and then they couldn't score enough to go forward. And the thing for me is, we all love Didic, and he's, for me, I think every year, somebody who will be a candidate for being Defender of the Year. But when you bring in Endom, you've got a player there with distribution that doesn't play in and plays round. Yeah. And you've got to have somebody who can play round and go at teams and not play in a lot. And Didic and TMG for all of their strengths individually, we're a little bit too similar, I think, as a partnership.
I'm impressed, showing some character here in the early stages of the Canadian Premier League season. Let's move things back to Saturday's fixtures. Forge grinded out a 2-1 win over Valor. I don't know about you guys, kind of felt for Valor in that moment. It looked like they were just there, a team that's coming together on the fly with all these away fixtures until the new field is put down and ready to go in Winnipeg. What a goal right there by Jordan Faria. But the finishing by Borges and Jensen just about did it for Forge on the day. You were at Tim Hortons Field, KJ. What's your takeaway?
Yeah, like you, came away thinking that they were very fortunate to get the 3 points in the end. I mean, Baddy Banga missed a penalty, so they could have been out of sight, I suppose. Takeaways, a few things. I felt for Dante Campbell, who is arguably one of the best players and a true leader on that team. You can see there, just his head in his hands and his shirt up. I spoke to him after the game briefly, just a dejection for a player like that. Feel for him because he had to go back into the back three with an injury and not really his best position. But look, Forge are flying. It's the first time in franchise history they've won the first 3 games of the season. Borges, we're going to get to in a second, and Chouanier, and this Parra as a player at left back. He's a significant difference maker. And people would say, how can you be a difference maker? He's at left back. He's inside. He wins the penalty. He's just technically supreme. He's arguably already one of the best left backs this league has ever seen. And he's a massive difference maker to the way this team can play on the left-hand side.
Before we got to get to Tristan Borges in a moment, but Kalongo, the goalkeeper.
Yes.
I mean, this is impressive, taking over from a 5-year starter in Tristan Henry, and he hasn't skipped a beat here. He's been excellent.
Go on the highlights if you need to see it. The back-to-back save with him tipping it over the bar. He's had an exceptional performance yesterday, confident. This is it right there, right? Like, that is a reaction save, and then right after, off of that corner, stepping up big for his team, right?
3 big saves.
3.
I asked him his favorite. He said the second one onto the bar, so you picked the right one. Yeah.
For me, that is one of those where your defender wheels, you know, KJ go, you're hitting him, you're picking him up. I'm shining his shoes on Monday. That was a huge save by him. He's so young, but he's very mature. Very comfortable in his body, and you can see it. You can see a guy that's growing into his own. You love to see it in the Canadian Premier League.
We have hyped up Tristan Borges on this show last week, the week before. We're only 3 weeks old, kids. But Borges has turned back the clock to 2019. Really, it's Borges, it's gorgeous. Like, he has 5 goal contributions in the first 3 games of the season, 2 goals and 3 assists. What have you seen? Just how good has he been, KJ?
Well, he's been the best player in the Canadian Premier League through April, and for me, there's a lot of reasons why. First of all, he's not hurt anymore, and he's not battling injuries. He's found consistency. He's come back, obviously, fresh off the exuberance of the CPL final and being the hero that day. The other thing, too, is that it's great to see him playing in a system where he can often be the 3rd man in midfield, and he plays a lot centrally.
Yeah.
And you've got Baddy Banga and Chouanier who keep the width. So if your opposition is defending against Forge, and you've got Baddy Banga and Chouanier, you're stretched already. And then you've got Borges in central. He's got that left foot to bring true balance. He's getting his goal contributions. It's the first time in three straight games he's got goal contributions for almost 2 years. It's great to see. And Forge, for me, without Cisse and Nana still not being there, this is almost like a little bonus right now.
Absolutely. You're not expecting him to kick off so early and so strong. But to add to what KJ said, I think with him last season, it was a bit mental, right? I think for him, he was playing as a role player almost, and he's an impact player. Now the system is built for him to be an impact player, to come in those moments, come in the pocket. You see when he's striking the ball, this is him saying, I'm going to be that guy, right? Step up. And he has the Parras to connect with, the Benny Bedabangas, all those guys. So he's just really relishing that right now, and there's no stopping this guy when he's on.
Friday night, we got to touch on it. We were wondering what this York United team was all about. They answered some questions on Friday night. A big result, a 3-0 win over Vancouver, who are, coming off a Canadian Championship loss, disappointing one in Calgary midweek. Brian Wright ends up scoring a brace, and new players in the team all making an impression. Frank Stirring, Juan Cordova, Brem Sumaro back into the team. And they looked like something that we didn't see through the first couple weeks of the season, Jordan. They were very good.
Yeah, they started from the first whistle. With the press, I thought Martin Nash did an excellent job of putting Mo Babuli on the left wing and just kind of matching them on the 4-4-2, matching them being Vancouver FC. But look, Brian Wright, last season, 2 goals. right? Today, or on Friday, 2 goals and an assist, and he just stuck around, KJ. It wasn't that he was magnificent for 90 minutes. He was just eager. And I think York United, if they want to be in the mix, needs someone like him to be scratching double digits this season.
I'm with you. Look, one of the tactical trends of the first 3 weeks, I talked about Para, is width in the Canadian Premier League. We saw Moosey today with getting a lot of that in Fraser Ed. Cordova was marvellous in his debut for York United. And then Babuli on the other side, you touched on it, gives Martin Nash something to think about because it puts him in space. And when he plays centrally, a defensive team can say, I'm just going to put 2 men on you, I'm going to block this around. And the way that he got into that space and tactically worked, they had everyone buying in, it gives some food for thought for how they're versatile tactically going forward.
I think quickly, I'm just going to say with Mo Babuli playing on the left, I like it just because of his movements as well, KJ. But then if York really want to make a run, you have your 2 midfielders, if it's Brem Samara or Adekube, but who is that 10 or that 3rd midfielder? You match up Vancouver FC, but if you play a forward, you play a Cavalry, even a Halifax, those teams with 3 in the middle, they could burn you.
York needed that ahead of their TELUS Canadian Championship upcoming tie against Forge. Vancouver, they're going to be A-OK.
I'm not worried, Wheels. I'm not worried.
Atletico Ottawa with a statement win over Halifax. We will turn our attention to the Wanderers next as match night rolls on here on One Soccer.
Power doesn't sound like it used to. The all-electric ID4 with instant acceleration. Electric feels good. Volkswagen.
Do we really have any choice at all?
Everyone has a choice, and every choice has a consequence.
Which do you choose?
Life's full of tough choices, isn't it?
How do you choose?
How do you go from the best to the ultimate without breaking the bank? You choose the big, bold, ultimate taste of ultimate chicken sausages and hot dogs. Choose ultimate taste and value, only from Maple Lodge Farms.
Would you like the extended warranty for $150?
Go ad-free for $29.99.
Only 3 easy payments of $49.99 if you act now.
We make thousands of financial decisions every day. Each one affects bigger decisions tomorrow. Stay on top of it all with the CIBC Smart Account.
Maxime Tissot. De Brienne for Del Campo, who's going to beat Fillion. Twardek in for Aparicio, totally unmarked. Brilliant finish from Manny Aparicio to find a second. And Antonoro is into the box and setting up the 3rd goal. Tablas got his. Gagnola Pare lifts it high. Touch from Ferrazzo, the shot.
In front of a sold-out crowd at Wanderers grounds, Atletico Ottawa played spoiler against their rival to the tune of a 3-1 victory over Halifax. The game was marred from a home side perspective by a 19th minute sending off of Lorenzo Caligari. Let's hear from the Halifax Wanderers manager after they fall to 3 games played, 3 losses on the season, and how things played out through his eyes.
You just got to keep doing the right thing every day and things will improve. I mean, there's no difference in life. I mean, depends how you look at football. If you were to today go on Y-Scout, we lead the league in possession, crosses, key passes, smart passes, and touches in the penalty. We have an expected goal of 4, and we scored our first today. So we're doing everything except the 18 and 18, and we're gonna get some bounces our way and sometimes against us. So nothing you can do. You got to do the right thing every day. Well, if you're asking me about the call, that obviously says that you and everybody in this country has a concern about it. So can't say much else. If we were sure about it, we wouldn't ask about it. So the fact that there's a question makes it a questionable call. So that's as easy as it gets. I think that's a call you have to be 100% about. I think Ottawa's improved some last year. Halifax has improved since last year. Every team's improved. Has the officiating improved since last year? Is the question I ask.
The comments of Patrice Geyser preaching process over results in the early season. Like, look, the standard, the bar, and I said this at the start of the season, has been raised when it comes to expectations about Halifax. No doubt, no question the result was affected by Cavalry sending off. Geyser clearly sees things one way. KJ, how do you see the sending off? Was it a just red card given?
Yeah, it's serious foul play, no? I mean, we haven't seen a fantastic camera angle, but you know who else I got a great angle? Referee Ben Hoskins has got a great angle. He's got a better angle than I have, sitting in this chair. So I think, and I'm a big fan of Patrice Geyser, and I agree with everything he said for the first 30 seconds of that clip that we just showed. And we're going to get into Halifax in a second. But you can't go studs up. You can't go studs up, and it's not about intent. You can't go studs up and put studs into somebody's chest. So for me, they'll have a very hard time in defending that play. And I think it's very unfair what he said about the standard of officiating compared to the rest of everything else. I know he's emotional, but I do think so far, certainly from my own eyes, through 3 weeks, the officiating has been good in the Canadian Premier League.
I'd have to agree. If I'm looking at this, I've been given, as I said last week, I think a dozen red cards in my career. And not something I'm bragging about. I don't want to be hypocritical. I know things happen. However, if you raise your knee, you extend your foot, you show studs and connect, it's okay if you get a red card at that point. Like, every player knows there's a time to stop. And I've gone into tackles where I should have stopped, and I was given a red card. Cavalry, love him as a player, and this is a moment where he should have maybe stepped out or not connected. But that's a red card.
We'll see what happens from here. Look, it's a long season. It's 3 losses out of 3 to start the season. It's not catastrophic, but here are the tradition, or what's happened to other slow starters that have then gone on to make the playoffs over the course of recent years in the Canadian Premier League. We'll see. I mean, 5 out of the 8 teams will make the playoffs inevitably. So, and this Halifax team certainly has quality, KJ, to go out and do it. With that being said, I'm not sure if they've replaced the Morelli in the midfield for this team. And up top, do they have a reliable source of goals in this team? These are some of the questions that percolate when things aren't going your way out of the gate.
I agree with that, but I don't think anybody in the Canadian Premier League has a reliable source of goals up top. No team. No team has a reliable source of goals. No team. It's the way that no team has a reliable source. Ultimately, you've got players who score goals, but this is why players win Golden Boots in the Canadian Premier League with 13 and 12 goals. You're averaging, a goal every 2 games. So, look, I understand what you're saying. I think they're going to be fine. The issue for me is the Cavalry suspension. It could not have happened to a worse player for Halifax. He's undoubtedly their best player. He's the most valuable player, and he's irreplaceable. So, he's so important, and they collapsed, right, in this game in their home opener. Fantastic to see over 6,000 people there packing the Wanderers grounds again for another sellout, and they know how to do it better than most in the Canadian Premier League. So, no, it's not been ideal start for them, but they played 1 game at home, 2 games away from home, back-to-back out west, which is never easy, and they played 1 game at home where they had to play over 70 minutes with 10 men. So, look, okay, no points from 3, but if someone was to tell me right now, predict playoffs or no playoffs, I would predict playoffs.
Although 1 goal scored, 7 conceded.
It's one of those things, Wheels, right? I was joking with KJ before. I've been on teams as well where you concede 7, but you've only scored 1, and people are saying, oh, well, it's the attack. And then the same attackers are like, well, look at you guys are just leaking goals, right? I hope everyone on Halifax is not just blaming each other at this point. But I have to look at their attack as well, with the Valesky up top and even playing Farron down the middle. We didn't see Farron play at the number 9 last season. No. I think Patrice Geyser is trying to figure out, okay, we're going to keep the possession. You heard him in the presser. We're going to have these key passes. But who is finishing the dinner at the end of the day? Who is that guy, or who are those people? And I know it's only game 3, but Halifax just need to figure that out real soon.
Remember, out of the gate last season, much like Cavalry, draw. So they're not that far behind where they were last season. Again, just the expectations a little bit higher. So they move on to play in the Canadian Championship, the TELUS Canadian Championship, this upcoming week. They play Saint Laurent of League One Quebec. Is this a chance to get back on track, or is this potentially a tricky spot for Halifax this week?
It's a tricky spot. They need a great start. I mean, League One Quebec teams, I think Saint Laurent is coming to Halifax Wanderers ground and thinking there's something in this match, right? I think it's early in the season. A surprise could be there, but it's imperative that Halifax Wanderers start well and really take it to that League One side.
In many ways, it's the perfect opponent, and that does not disrespect them. League One Quebec have done a great job in this Canadian Championship. In fact, Blainville really pushed Halifax, this very team, back in 2021. It was very close until Morelli got that penalty just to get over the line. But I think for Halifax, what I mean by a perfect opponent at a perfect time is you don't want to wait another week. You want to get back on it right away, get another home game, get a game up where you think you should be able to win. Cavalry should be able to play, for at least this game, at least. We've seen that. So, yeah, to me, get out there and win it, and then you've got a great opportunity with what's next for them with TFC.
A lot of eyeballs, and if they do struggle in that game, the pressure will just continue to rise and rise and rise just a little bit at a time. Good news for Atletico Ottawa, 7 points through their first 3 games of the year. We're all wondering how quickly it would all come together. Blue Tableau opened his account for 2024. Aparicio, another goal. What did you see, KJ? I know we want to dig into the first goal they scored a little bit.
Yeah, when we started this thing in week 1 about Bassett's positioning, right? So I want to talk about a little bit about that in terms of what's going on with this team. And for me, it's very important that you think, you know, how can they get into their tactical shape? And right now, you know, I'll pause it there for a second because this time they didn't play Zapata. They played Sissoko in central midfield with Aparicio in almost a double pivot. And the one player you can see here, there's your back 4. The one player you can see who's not in this position is here. And that's Balou. You're going to see him in a second. But Ollie Bassett, I think, had a fantastic game. This is his best game of the season in that inside right position. And why it was so important. Play it through here and I'm going to tell you. You know, Sissoko picks up, but look where Bassett is and look at the 4. When you think defensively, when we pause it right there, there's your back 4 and there's your other 4. Now, okay, we know it's 10 men and there's 9 outfield players. But look as we pause it there, Balou and how he stretches the team. Now, okay, we're pausing it there and it's borderline offside. Yeah. But that's not my point. That's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm talking about what Balou brings here. And Bassett being here allows the left back, Where's Timoteo to come in, play the ball over the top, and we'll see what Balou does next. Great ball over the top by Sissoko, and then they're in. And at that point, Fillian's got a decision to make. He comes out of his goal. And then what I want to talk about now is Ottawa and their ability to defend and from the front. And I want to highlight the man again, Bassett. Watch what he does next in his press. Play it through and just watch him. Watch this. See right away how he goes in on Rampersad and stops the pass. They've blocked this pass and they've got them in. Look at that. It's a fantastic press right away. And now you've got players like Debrienne and Tissot who can play. Play it through again. Look, they can't get out. Aparicio's a hunter. Debrienne wins the ball. And now Tissot comes in. And now you've got Debrienne and Tissot, who have got the ability to cause problems in wide areas, and Halifax are in trouble. And I really like this about Ottawa is that, for me, how they hunted the ball and worked from it. Now, we can talk about Del Campo, how fortunate he is, because it should be saved. But in the end, the way Ottawa come in, I think that says a lot about their work rate, and no wonder Carlos Gonzalez had a big smile after the game, Jordan.
You know what? I look at Ollie Bassett in that clip that you broke down perfectly, KJ, in the years that I've played against him and also just watching him last year. He would hunt for a bit, but sometimes give up. And that, no shade to any Atletico Ottawa player before, but they just were on the same wave. Now you're doing that with the Aparicio, Sissoko. There are players now that are like, okay, we can go and bite. And they did that perfectly on the goal.
Well, it's a good return, 7 points from their first 3 games. Good stuff going on in our nation's capital. They continue to break down everything in the Canadian Premier League on One Nation. Tuesdays, 7 p.m. with Andy Petrillo and Jordan Wilson. You can watch right here on One Soccer. Best or worst, A or I, whatever you want to call it, is coming up next.
Hey, let's go somewhere beachy. I don't like sand. What? What about Cancun sand? It's so soft. Or maybe Caribbean white sand. Sure. Ooh, Costa Rican sand. It's got dolphins.
Costa Rica, then?
Yeah, Costa Rica.
Good choice.
It was all him.
With over 50 sunny destinations to choose from, we have a flight for that.
Power doesn't sound like it used to. The all-electric ID4 with instant acceleration. Electric feels good.
Volkswagen.
Tony Bet. At Tony Bet, get treated like a VIP. Bet on live games with odds on all sorts of sports. That's what you get when you bet with Tony Bet.
Time now for the best or worst segment here on Match Night. It's called Best or Worst, like literally Best or Worst.
Aye.
Or A or I. Wheeler, Wilson, KJ.
No Johnston this week, though.
No
Ali Johnston.
No Alistair Johnston. We'll work on that for next week. Do we all love like the in-house entertainment at half times of a basketball game where they shoot from mid-court, or like in between intermissions at a hockey game where you got to put the ball, the puck in between like the little thing in the net? Well, we have our very own in the Canadian Premier League, courtesy of York United. So this is what it is. You simply need to put the ball in the top corner, in that really little hole in the top corner, for your chance to win $36,000. That hole is tiny. Now, if you get it in that the first time, you win $500, and you can put it all in the line for the full $36,000. If you hit the other ball, who's gonna score that? Like, they gotta call up David Beckham. I don't even think he can do it, Jordan.
I don't think De Bruyne is getting that.
De Bruyne is not as well.
Is anyone doing that?
Look, if there's someone who scores the first one, you take that 500.
I want you out there at halftime next time.
No, I can maybe tackle it in.
So what is it? If you get the 500, you're not guaranteed. If you go for a second, you give it away.
Yes.
If you get the 500, you walk out the stadium.
100%.
It's like Price is Right. It's all or nothing.
You can't go again.
It's like doing this. Like, I pass the ball. Here you go, Jordan. If you put it between my legs, I'll give you $1 million.
Try it.
It's just not it's impossible. Get that out of here.
Ah, hilarious.
It's a tough one. Hey, your chance, it's going to go up to $37,000.
I like it.
York United.
I think it's going to keep going up, lads.
On the theme of soccer balls, Ashton Gopi, Vancouver FC manager, wasn't happy with some potential Cavalry mind games or ball tricks as they trained heading into their Canadian Championship tie using the Derby Star ball, the ball of the Canadian Premier League. But then for the Canadian Championship, they ended up using a Nike ball. Here's what Ashton Gopi had to say. Listen to him say it in his own words.
After we trained the day before the match, and I'm not trying to make excuses for our players, but I think it's, for me, it's very unprofessional that we're giving Derby Star balls for the game that they're going to use Nike balls the next day. Then when the training finishes, then we're told that we're going to use Nike balls for the next match.
All right, legitimate excuse, KJ, or no?
I think I'll probably say yes, only because, like, listening to him, like, if you're supposed to be playing with the same ball that you're allowed to train with, look, I think it's a Canada soccer sanctioned event. Yeah. That's why the Nike balls are there if they're in the play. So just make sure the guys get to train with them. Because by all accounts, I'm not going to pretend I know, but from what I hear from people, they feel different.
I will say there's a difference. For sure. You pull up on match day, you visualize scoring with a certain ball. The Nike balls, those fly. So every long ball, every cross in the box. I was wondering, I was watching the game with you, Wheels. There's sometimes you're putting the ball in a dangerous area and they're going out for goal kicks. Not saying this is why Vancouver lost. I thought Cavalry were better for...
I don't think he said that, though, to be fair.
Exactly. Yeah. He feels blindsided.
You think it's mind tricks? Do you think Cavalry's pulling...
No,
I mean, stuff like that goes on, but I don't think...
No.
Coincidence?
I don't think Cavalry needs to play any mind games.
Right. Oh. Interesting stuff. So obviously these are big times for Canada soccer. The Canadian Championship is up and running. The TELUS Canadian Championship's up and running. The Canadian men's national team is looking for a new manager. All sorts of friendlies going on. This would be the worst time ever for any technical disruption at Canada soccer. Like, it would be the worst time. Don't tell me it happened this weekend. Please don't tell me it happened this weekend. Please don't have it. Oh no! The website's down! Canada soccer! Oh my God, this is a nightmare! Did someone take the domain? That can't be possible. Okay, in a situation like this, you absolutely don't bring undue attention to it.
Get it back up.
There's a couple it's the weekend. Maybe no one was going to the Canada Soccer website. You don't want to release a statement at a time like this. Oh, God! Oh, God, no! Oh, no! Frustration across the board. Oh, my God, it's been a difficult weekend for Canada Soccer. I guess this is a good time. I'm going to park my 20-year crusade to try to get match notes for Canadian national team games. I'm going to leave that alone as they're troubleshooting much bigger issues.
Does anybody have the
right
domain
now.
GarethWheeler.com?
If not, I'm not going to pay anything for it. I wonder what the ransom was for that one. Yikes. Halifax Wanderers, shout out to the Wanderers. Sellout crowd for their first game of the season. Over 6,500 people. Look great. I mean, this is a fan base, KJ. They deserve a brand new stadium. The city deserves it. The soccer community deserves it.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely, they believe in it now. And then obviously they're having internationals there now with the women's national team going there as well. It has become a hotbed of Canadian soccer. I've had the pleasure of being there more than one occasion now. The fan base are intelligent, they're engaged, they're passionate, and it's a family environment. And that is what, for me, is one of the major success stories of Canadian soccer. We hear a lot of negativity all the time, but fantastic to see family, affordable, friendly, everything and more going into the Halifax Wanderers grounds.
By far my favorite place to play in Canada, and one of those pitches that makes you feel like you're in Europe, right? Tight, everyone's close, on grass, phenomenal.
For more on that, go to the team website, which I'm sure is up right now.
Go visit. Not the website. Go visit Halifax.
Yes,
Walk from downtown. It's
or.
beautiful.
The latest on the Canadian men's national team managerial search is next on a little show we call
Match Night!
Here on One Soccer.
We created Carlsberg 0-0 because even the best things can be better. Where I go free beer. Clean one-handed backhand is better. Balancing stuff is better. Whatever this is better. We created Carlsberg. Skipping your own ad is better. Parking in space, better. So, can the best alcohol-free beer make good things better? Probably.
How do you go from the best to the ultimate without breaking the bank? You choose the big, bold, ultimate taste of ultimate chicken sausages and hot dogs. Choose ultimate taste and value, only from Maple Lodge Farms.
Would you like the extended warranty for $150?
Go ad-free for $29.99.
Only 3 easy payments of $49.99 if you act now.
We make thousands of financial decisions every day. Each one affects bigger decisions tomorrow. Stay on top of it all with the CIBC Smart Account.
Gatorade, with electrolytes to help replenish what's lost in sweat. carbs to help fuel your working muscles, and fluids to help you hydrate. Scientifically formulated so you never stop competing.
I do this for my town, my time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop.
Rehydrate, replenish, refuel. Gatorade.
Degree, 72-hour non-stop protection. Antiperspirant with motion sense. Tested to the limit. Degree, keeps working when others stop.
Looking forward to the next few months for the Canadian men's national team. Netherlands, France back-to-back, then the world champions Argentina to kick off Copa America. After all that, there's actually a fall September friendly against Mexico as well. So good times to be a national team supporter, whether it's the men's or women's national team. Welcome to a segment we like to call Oh Canada, Oh Baby. Gareth Wheeler, Jordan Wilson, KJ with you. By the way, I came up with the Oh Canada, Oh Baby. It was my own way of paying homage or paying tribute to the great Bob Cole, broadcaster, Oh Baby, who lost his life or passed away at the age of 90 this week. That touched so many sports fans coast to coast to coast across this country. An incredible broadcaster, an incredible career. He will not be forgotten anytime soon. So we're still in this Canadian men's national team managerial hunt right now, and more reports are coming out telling the story about the process that's playing out. The Evening Standard in the UK linked a bunch of names, including Ole Gunnar Solskjaer this week. And then The Athletic, Josh Cloke wrote that Paul Clement, a former assistant to Carlo Ancelotti, could be the front runner for this race. Interviews are up and running. Let's go to Christian Jack. You've done some great reporting on this yourself, KJ. Where do things stand? What's the latest from what you're hearing?
Well, the latest is that managerial interviews have taken place this week already, this past week that's gone, I guess we should say. They will continue, but I know there's a lot of reports saying, particularly out of England, that the interviews could take place. They have taken place for quite a few of the managers that were already mentioned in that piece already. They were taking place outside of Canada, I believe in the United States, in New York City. So they've had those managers in, the likes of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Aitor Karanka. Jesse Marsh has obviously been heavily linked to this job as well. That would, that would not be a name that would be a surprise to a lot of other people. There's another one that I've heard that has got international management experience very recently in Europe. But I did not hear Paul Clement. I've not heard that. So I'm not saying he hasn't. I believe he is still in consideration. I don't believe he is interviewed for it at this point. The other thing I want to stress is that, I said earlier, there is still ex-national team players very much involved in this process. And everything I hear from players, ex-players, agents, different people within this process is nothing but positivity for Kevin Blue in Canadian soccer. There's a lot of people that have come in here with high-profile names. We've seen them now. They've dealt with a lot of federations. They've dealt with a lot of clubs. They've been involved in the game for decades worth of experience. And I think that if they were disappointed with Canadian soccer or the process or the lack of professionalism, I certainly would have heard about it. And I've heard the opposite, Gareth, so far. So I think that's a win for Kevin Blue and Canada soccer so far in the process. I know people don't want to necessarily hear that. They want to hear, are we getting any closer? I don't have any answers for that at the moment in terms of how close it is. But they have held very extensive chats with them, with Kevin Blue, with Sean Crooks, with many other people present in New York City.
It seems like there's a lot of positive. The question will just then go back to, well, what kind of candidate are they looking for? Because there's a wide variety here, KJ. Managers with club experience, international experience, domestic-based coaches as well. It's going to be compelling to see what their preference is when all is said and done. And obviously, the other thing is how much this job will pay. That's going to be an issue. And I know a couple candidates who've declined to move forward with the interview process based upon the fact that they're comfortable where they are right now. So they denied even having an interview in the first place.
Yeah, I heard that too. And I just want to say, Jose Mourinho and Frank Lampard are enormous names that get people to open clicks and stories and get people to talk about it. But it was never even a thought. It was never even close at that point. What kind of profile of a manager do they want to get? Well, I think number one needs to be somebody who's going to be committed to the program until at least 2026. You know, if you're going to bring in somebody with stature, whether it be domestically or internationally, you know, they cannot have that manager suddenly then get wooed in another year and leave the program.
Yeah.
You know, I know things change, Jordan, and a lot in professional sports. It's hard to say, can we lock somebody in? But this is such a pivotal moment in Canadian soccer, a pivotal moment within the sport and the landscape of this country, that they have to get this hire right and understand that at the very least, the runway has to extend to 2026. And let's hold up for a successful World Cup and beyond. But that's got to be the number one priority.
The question still is asked, okay, can we expect this hire to be done ahead of Copa America? Guys, it's been 244 days since John Herdman left his post as Canadian men's national team manager. And there's still that gap, there's still that void. Like, this has to be sealed. Canada are already playing at a deficit, trying to play catch-up when it comes to preparation for 2026, let alone this summer. They're not sure that we'll ever get there, but this has to be done sooner rather than later. There needs to be some urgency.
I'm usually optimistic. I just don't feel like Canada Soccer, they're going to get over the line before Copa. Based on all the things that you just said, KJ, as well, knowing the magnitude of this hire, knowing that you need to get it done and you need to get it right, I think that all this time that has gone wheels, look, for me, I'm with you. I wanted a pony, and I asked my mom for Christmas. But then you go 200 and something days, and you say, I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it at this time. They need to get it right at a point, but it's just not happening yet. Maybe, again, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. I don't know all the things that are going on, but I just look at Copa America this summer, and I see Mauro Biello, and I see him leading the lines, and I don't see someone else coming in before then.
A couple of things for me. I would say with this process going on and the thorough nature of it and the professional nature of it, I think the country, the fans, and everybody who's excited, those who are joining us and watching us live, those people who are watching it and hunting down managers available and how passionate they are, I think they would have a right to be very disappointed if the manager is not in charge for Copa America. It is the second greatest tournament that Canada has an opportunity of ever playing in. And they're never going to get that experience again between now and kicking a ball in the 2026 World Cup opener in Toronto. So I think that that's an opportunity, will be an enormous miss if they don't. And the second thing I want to bring up is Mauro Biello, who's been nothing but a fantastic soldier for this program for a long time and will be part of this interview process. And by the way, will know by Copa America whether he's going to get the job or not. And so if he knows he's not getting the job, but by the way, the other person is, but he isn't here ready right now, can you go do this again? I have no doubt that a man of that stature and class would probably say yes, but that would also be the wrong thing to do, in my mind. Yeah. That would not be right. So I think for both sides of things, you know, just doing the right thing by the program and by Mauro, and Mauro may be the one who gets the job. But I think, what are we, 7 weeks away? I think there's time.
We will wait to see how this process plays out. I still remain steadfast that what happens over the course of this next week may play a role, as it is the annual members' meetings with Canada Soccer. All the stakeholders in Canadian soccer come together for their annual meetings, and this one's particularly significant because there's a presidential election at play, which will play out over the next week, well, later in the week, in Montreal. This is how the voting structure will work, and I can confirm that FIFA has contacted Canada Soccer, said the votes are staying the same. There was some consternation, there were some hard feelings last year among stakeholders as it was being debated what the voting structure would look like, who might be getting votes, and how that would play out. It's staying the same for this one, so that's known. This is significant because you're trying to figure out maybe where the votes would be for the incumbent, Charmaine Crooks, who is president of Canada Soccer, and who she's running against, Peter Aguirre, the president of Ontario Soccer. I believe that he was nominated by the province of Quebec. You have to think the Ontario votes would go his way, maybe Toronto FC as well. Charmaine's from BC, maybe BC Soccer stays with her, but there's a number of votes that we're just not sure what direction this may going. There's pluses and minuses for both candidates. Charmaine is very well liked, but it's been a tumultuous year in Canadian soccer, and Charmaine is elected to stay silent. And meanwhile, Peter Aguirre is reportedly going to be coming at this from more of a football-first perspective, what needs to be done to improve the professional, and when I say professional, I don't mean the professional game, making sure that Canada soccer is run in a professional way as possible to benefit the footballing side of things. KJ, how do you see this playing out? Because this is a pretty consequential presidential election for Canada soccer.
Yeah, it's once again another important day amongst many that we've had over the last few years with Canadian soccer. And there's lots of layers to this, and I think a lot of people who'll be watching our show will think through the lens of what you just alluded to, which is the professional game. You know, there's a lot of other elements to it with the amateur game as well. And Canada Soccer has been often seen as an amateur priority organization that hasn't leaned enough on the professional side of it. And I think they're going through that change right now a little bit. It needs, I think, a strong figurehead who is willing to speak up a little bit more. And I think they need to work on the professional side of it. And I think they need, for me, they need to find somebody who's going to be, and it doesn't matter whether you call it a director of soccer, a technical director of the professional game, but they need somebody there for me who is going to hold everybody accountable on the football side. And so if a coach quits tomorrow, then you've got a succession plan, and the coach cannot come in with full autonomy and be able to run a program either positively or through the ground financially.
I will say
sporting director, yeah.
Plenty will be sorted out at these meetings that are upcoming. There will be new board members who are being named as well, and I give them all the credit in the world for taking upon that role. You know these people, and there'll be some talented people that put their hand up after former board members have been sued by players and everything that's been going on. This is a volunteer role for these board members. We need good people sitting on that board to take the game forward in this country.
With passion.
And I give them all the credit in the world for
amen.
putting their hands up and being part of the Canadian Soccer Association Board of Directors. One Soccer Today, we'll be discussing it more on Monday, and as well as probably Thursday. Actually, I don't think there's a Thursday show this week because we have Canadian Championship action on our airways, but you can typically catch us Mondays and Thursdays right here on One Soccer. And we'll look ahead to this week's Canadian Championship fixtures next here on Match Night.
Tony Bet.
At Tony Bet, get treated like a VIP. Bet on live games with odds on all sorts of sports. That's what you get when you bet with
Tony Bet.
Do we really have any choice at all?
Everyone has a choice, and every choice has a consequence.
Which do you choose?
Life's full of tough choices, isn't it?
How do you choose?
Gatorade. With electrolytes to help replenish what's lost in sweat, carbs to help fuel your working muscles, and fluids to help you hydrate. Scientifically formulated so you never stop competing.
I do this for my town, my time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop.
Rehydrate, replenish, refuel. Gatorade.
Rated Carlsberg 0-0 because even the best things can be better with alcohol-free beer. Clean one-handed backhand is better. Balancing stuff is better. Whatever this is better. We created Carlsberg. Skipping your own ad is better. Parking in space, better. So, can the best alcohol-free beer make good things better? Probably.
Some ugly scenes here. That is as good a goal as you will see. A spectacular finish!
Degree, 72-hour non-stop protection. Antiperspirant with motion sense. Tested to the limit. Degree. Keeps working when others stop.
This is the final score presented by Tony Bet. Here's a reminder of how things finished up in this weekend's Canadian Premier League action for Matchweek 3. Remember, you can win $100,000 or a trip to the 2024 Canadian Premier League Final by playing TonyBet's Canadian Premier League Predictor. Visit predictor.canpl.ca for more info. Wrapping things up with Wilson and KJ, I am Wheeler. We have a couple questions to fire through, or these guys to fire through. I'll just sit here as a passive observer. We're 2 games into this year's TELUS Canadian Championships. Toronto FC got past Simcoe County Rovers, and Cavalry beat 10-man Vancouver FC. What was your biggest takeaway from those games, Jordan?
You know, for me, we could talk about the football side, but I think it was nice watching a League One team in Simcoe County Rovers go to Toronto FC with 2,000 fans. 2,000 fans, Gareth Wheeler. A club that just started 2 years ago, and really give a valiant effort. Okay, on the day, were they different and you could see the class from Toronto FC? Yes, but I love the fight. I love the spirit. I love even the players that came on. You could see how much it meant to just play on that pitch, KJ. And that, for me, is just something that will permeate for years to come.
A wonderful story and another step forward in making Canada a true soccer culture. This is what happens all over the world. This is what happens. I've had the fortune of covering cup competitions for 27 years, going to see non-league teams and all of this. And this is what we've been screaming for in Canada as well. One thing I would say is, can we stop calling it a preliminary round? It doesn't precede anything. They earned their right to play in that round. This should be the first round of the Canadian Championship. Yeah. And in a world where we're still trying to get more and more eyeballs talking about this sport, we should never be diminishing anything ourselves. We should be making it bigger. And that was a really big moment. Unfortunately, it got soured a little bit by another quote that came out after the game from John Herdman in terms of what he wanted. And that almost took on a bigger life than the actual story. But the story of a new club in a new community bringing 2,000 fans down on a cold, wet night when the Toronto Maple Leafs are playing to go and sit in that stadium and represent them was an absolute marvelous story, and it's been happening in other League One teams, and hopefully we'll see that again continue. But this is the only way we're going to grow the sport in this country.
Like, congrats to TFC for advancing. Big win in Orlando as well in Major League Soccer on Saturday night. Those comments just didn't sit well. They still don't sit well to me. No need to belittle or change the topic. Like, that was the story. This is Barrie, Ontario, not known as a footballing hotbed, 150,000 people. It was Rovers Day, Simcoe County Rovers Day in the city, and it's something that needs to be celebrated, not diminished. So let's keep on telling that story.
Club, Gareth.
2,000 people on away day, KJ.
Yeah.
Just midweek in a cold night in April. Well done to Simcoe County Rovers. 6 Canadian Premier League teams in action this week in the Canadian Championship. Is there a team, Jordan, above the rest that intrigues you, that's catching your eye?
Pacific FC. It's got to be. I think their pathway as well. I think, look, TSS Rovers did an upset last year to Valor FC, but I think Pacific FC, like their chances going against the semi-pro side. But then after that win, it's either Valor or Atletico Ottawa they're playing. Like, they have a very good shot at going to semifinals. And this team, you're looking at how they defended today, Wheels, how they could keep a clean sheet. If they're just good on the side, I think they could go far in this competition.
Yeah, on that side, Atletico Ottawa have obviously had very difficult times over the last few years in this competition. I know that burns brightly for them to try and get a better performance in this competition, but it has to be Forge. Whenever I talk to a player there and talk about their priorities this year, they don't want to talk about a CPL Shield. They don't want to talk about a North Star Cup right now. They want this. Yeah. And they believe that they belong, and they believe they let themselves down last year in Montreal. And they want 2 legs, and they want a chance to prove they can get through.
Interesting. Each and every game you can watch right here on One Soccer in the TELUS Canadian Championship. I'm a big NFL draft guy. I'm such a geek. I sit there and watch every pick of every round. My weekend was watching the NFL draft. Forget my takeaways there. If we were going to do a Canadian Championship draft, you can draft any player first overall from any of the 14 teams competing in this year's tournament, who would your number 1 overall pick be, Christian Jack?
Go to me. Number 1.
They're coming to you first.
No, you go.
Jordan, you want to go first?
No, but you give. I just want to see if we're telepathic, if we're on the same wavelength. Because for me, I was thinking that's a unanimous number 1.
I was thinking the same. I was trying to think how I'd go something different from you. So
I don't think you can. I think the number 1 is the number 1 for a reason. I think we both pick
on with it. Who is it?
Goldfinger.
Yeah, 100% Ryan Gold. Dangerous man. If I'm picking a team, I'm building them. He's at the center for sure.
Yeah, I think it's Ryan Gold. I mean, he's the best player on the best team in Canada right now. And a shout out for me, another player that I love on that team is Kubas. I think he's an absolute dynamo, and he's done a lot of work there. And they haven't had a player like that for a long time since they signed him. And that's another reason why I think they've been very good. So for me, it's got to be that.
What about, and I'm just trying to spin this a little bit, there's Canadian content rules in this competition, and I think that there's value in Canadian players. So if you weren't going to go in that direction, perhaps a Canadian player, like
for sure.
Jonathan Osorio is Mr. Canadian Championship.
Yes.
His name is covered in the record books. Mathieu Chouanière with CF Montreal in the team. Well, if Loré, if he can play down the road, or even with Vancouver Whitecaps, Ali Ahmed, Sam Adekubi, they're off to a great start to the season, KJ.
Yeah, that's a great shout too. I wasn't sure whether this was a Canadian Championship draft, so I wasn't aware of that. But yeah, they're all great.
Content rules have to come into consideration.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Ryan Raposa gets a shout for me. I think him in this competition, he does well. There's a bunch of players. This is the time of year.
Nobody's mentioned an Italian.
Yeah, isn't that weird? Like Insigne, the Warrior Bernardeschi. Yeah, is it? Maybe plenty of picks. So these two like Ryan Gold. I love golds. Make your picks. It's the Predictor, the Canadian Premier League Predictor. Again, visit predictor.canpl.ca for more info and get your picks in today. It was an unpredictable weekend in the Canadian Premier League, wasn't it? Would you have had York United 3, Vancouver 0?
I picked them to win. I didn't pick the 3-0 though.
Goalless between Cavalry and Pacific.
That was a surprise.
Anyways, on behalf of Jordan and KJ and everyone here at One Soccer, I am Gareth Wheeler. This has been Match Night for Matchweek 3 in the Canadian Premier League. Shout out to everyone watching, and we'll see you this week as the TELUS Canadian Championship rolls on. And you're home for Canadian soccer, this little channel we like to call One Soccer.